We're going to get started now, but please feel free to keep introducing yourselves because we want you to be very active in chat. That tends to be the hallmark of all of our conversations. And today, we consider this to be a roundtable conversation. We've got some really great panelists for a dialogue. It's not so much of a teaching session as it is a dialogue. And we are thrilled to want to hear from you as well as our wonderful panelists. So today we're going to be exploring the topic of how to deliver excellence by creating, ensuring consistency and quality in digital learning experiences. And by the way, digital learning experiences to me is a very broad term that can be used for experiences that are face-to-face, online, in all different formats, environments, modalities. And we have with us today a couple of real experts in delivering in particularly in online formats. So quickly, I'll introduce myself. I'm Carrie O'Donnell. If you haven't been to any of our webinars, that welcome for the first time. And if you're returning, thank you. We're happy to have you. Brett and I are a little dueling team. I'm going to facilitate this one, but you're going to see Brett Christie, who is my partner in arms, and he's going to speak to some of the questions we have here. So I will, but I'm going to start with Tom. If you could introduce yourself.
Sure. Thanks, Carrie. I'm Tom Cavanaugh. I'm Vice Provost for Digital Learning at the University of Central Florida in sunny and warm Orlando. I've been at UCF for about 15 years.
Awesome. Evan.
Hi, I'm Evan Silberman. I'm the University Executive Director of CUNY Online and the City University of New York. I've been at CUNY about 3 years. But in higher education for well over 20.
Awesome. Brett, since there may be two people here who don't know you, quick.
Thanks, Gary. Hi, everybody. Brett Christie. I'm VP for Educational Innovation and Inclusivity at Alchemy. I've been in this position for going on 4 years now, and prior 25 plus years in higher ed as faculty developer, campus and system level efforts. Great to be with you.
Awesome. So anyway, we'll get started. And I just want to reinforce that we are highly encourage interaction and discussion. Brett's going to be manning that chat. So please feel free to chat. And we're also going to use a few Padlets, which we use frequently to get some ideas on the table. So I don't think that it would be a good idea for us to talk about consistency and quality in digital learning experiences without defining that. So I'd like to start with defining consistency and quality. Then we're going to talk a little bit about the challenges to attaining that. And I really want to hear from you as to what challenges you have so that our experts here can respond to that and give some thoughts and ideas. We're going to talk a little bit about what success looks like at UCF and at CUNY. And then, come back. And then what does the future look like for consistent, high quality learning experiences? So I'm going to start with my first question is, how do you define consistency and quality? And we'll start with Tom on this one.
Yeah, it's a great question. It's sort of at the core of I think what we all aspire to do. I mean, I think that there are industry standards that are kind of universally recognized, things like Quality Matters or Oscar, that I think we can all point to and say, okay, that is a definition of quality. And I would subscribe to that, and I would endorse that. But maybe just to sort of simplify it down, I think, does the course meet the objectives? And does it do it in an engaging way? Because you can meet the objectives in a horribly boring, non-engaging way, right? But we don't want that. So you want, and I think that's kind of what these rubrics all get at, is, are you engaging your students? Are you doing it using best practices in order to serve the learning objectives of the course? I think you mentioned the term consistency in there too, as kind of just right alongside quality. And, for us, we find that the things that students really appreciate the most about their online courses is when they have a defined structure, like if they know their assignments are always due at a certain time on a certain day of the week, if there are expectations set so that they're busy, there are a lot of adult learners, they have to plan their lives around their work, and if it's predictable and structured, then and intentional, they really appreciate it. I think of it like a skeleton. You've got the foundational bones, but you can put all sorts of creativity and variety on that structure, and make it your own. But that foundation, I think, really needs to be there in order for students to have a good experience.
That's great. That's great. Evan, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think those are really great points, Tom, and I agree. And I think if I were to broaden it out, I would say that consistency is really about the student's experience. If we're thinking about developing online programs, which is the focus of CUNY Online, is really about the student's experience through that program so that it's a familiar journey with consistent hallmarks that have been designed into the program itself. So when I was at a previous institution and we were developing an online program, it launched in its first year, and many of the students complained to us that that as they navigated between courses, it didn't feel like it was the same program because the way that the faculty were engaging with students was different in each course.
Yeah.
And that was a really key indicator to us that we needed to do a better job of ensuring that there were not only structures in place, like Tom mentioned too, for faculty, but also that there was each course had the same elements. And I think of this in the Amazon model, right? When you go to Amazon, you know what to expect, you know what you're going to get, regardless of where you are on the platform. And so as you navigate an online program as a student, we want you to feel the same way. Whether it's the first course or the 10th course, you know what it is and you know what to expect and you know where you're going to find it. And one of the key changes we made in that program based on students' feedback was telling them when they can expect to hear from faculty after posting assignments. And that made a huge difference for them. So I'll sum it up again by just saying it's really about the student's journey and feeling like a modern usable environment that most students are used to from any web app or website that they use these days.
Yeah, we hear this, Evan, what you're talking about, what you experience, we hear all the time. I mean, both of you are currently involved in very structured programs where you're building out structured online programs. But one thing we hear from institutions is as 66% of faculty today are teaching in more than one environment or modality. So they may be teaching face-to-face and online and hybrid, and half are teaching in 3 or more. And so we're hearing a lot is that it's really hard to drive consistency when faculty are teaching in so many different places and also have, there's a need for academic freedom, but there's also a need for consistency across the program. So I was just wondering, how do you balance the need for standardization with the need for academic freedom? And Tom, I see you shaking your head on that one. So why don't you start?
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe I'll underscore what I was starting to say earlier about this idea of like a skeleton as a foundation. Having that consistency, that structure, that intentionality to kind of to expand what Evan was saying about setting student expectations, right? And then not changing them from week to week. But that doesn't limit a faculty member. That basically gives them, these are the walls that you can operate within, but you can do an awful lot in that space to make it your own, to bring your personality or what we call your online persona to that course, to add interactivity, to bring in all kinds of, apps and social media and multimedia and all kinds of other tools that you want to bring in. I think all of that exists, but if you're still having random assignments due at random times throughout the week, it doesn't matter how good your media strategy is, students are not going to be happy about it because they're not going to be able to plan, they're not going to be able to be really intentional about it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, we went a few years ago, a year and a half ago, we people in our company asked our family members who were students, college students, to give us examples of what was great experiences and what were horrible experiences. And my nephew Connor took it on, man, and he did a video for us, and he walked us through a couple of his courses. And he was like, see, in this course, I can't find the assignment. Right? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do today or this week, But in this course, the instructor and she creates a lot of her own presence and personality. And every week she puts a little note, either a note or a video that says, hey, this is what we're doing this week. Hey, don't forget to go here. This is what I'm expecting of you. And it was a very interesting thing.
Sometimes during faculty development, we will bring a panel of students and sit them in front of the faculty that are going through the training and ask them, what do you like about your courses? What do you not like? What works? What doesn't work? And I'll be honest, it's so much more powerful for faculty to kind of just hear it straight from those students' mouths as opposed to us telling them. And the students are like, here's what happened in this course, or this faculty member didn't email me back in 2 weeks and it was terrible and I needed, feedback or whatever it was. They tell good stories and sort of horror stories. And I think they just have so much more credibility than even us as trainers.
Yeah. And by the way, Evan, I'm not going to ask you to repeat the same thing, but Evan, in our prep call, he did wax on the student view of the experience is your definition of consistency, right, Evan? And that if the student doesn't feel that the experience is quality and consistent, then that's your answer.
100%. I mean, we're here to serve students, and what the faculty bring is the expertise and the subject matter knowledge. And I think that the term digital learning is really key because it implies a great deal of flexibility and freedom, right? If we're all working within a learning management environment, but we're thinking about what we do as a digital learning environment, it enables us to bring in different components in different ways that creates the flexibility, which allows us to balance standardization with the need for creativity and academic freedom. And it's the partnership between the instructional design team who's bringing the expertise in the structure and the faculty who's bringing the content expertise that will help spark that creativity in thinking differently about what we do. But it all is for the benefit of improving student outcomes. So if what we're not doing is not obtaining that goal, and it's not making it easy for students to engage with, then we have a barrier to serving the student.
Brilliant. You've led us right into the next question. So we're going to do a Padlet now. And Kelly, maybe you could drop the Padlet into our chat. And our first question on the Padlet, I just want you to focus on this first question. Brett, are you going to share the screen as you do the Padlet? So what are the challenges or barriers? So just as you were leading us into Evan, what are the challenges or barriers to delivering consistent, high quality digital learning experiences on your campus? So what do you see as the primary challenges? So give everybody 2-3 minutes to answer. Hey, welcome, Robbie, and I'm glad that people are still joining. And please keep chatting on the webinar chat as you see fit. So Brett, do you want to show the Padlet?
Working on it right now, Carrie.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I had a little bit of a delay there.
Has anyone had problems with Zoom lately? We have noticed a lot of Zoom problems in the last couple of weeks. So number one, what are the barriers to consistent? Faculty reticence in working with instructional designers, lack of Wait, did you see that first one, top one? Brett, can you go to the top? Lack of knowledge by instructors on how and what to access. We have multiple faculty who have struggled in understanding what qualifies as quality and then putting those items into action. You know, these are, I would just say in general that the barriers to consistency often have to do with the fact that faculty don't even, that they aren't even thinking of it that way, right? And faculty have their own expertise, and it's really important for us to draw that expertise out. And as Evan and Tom were talking about, this whole idea of having the course structure as a skeleton or a blueprint, you know, that have that as the background and have some consistent experiential things for the student, but then taking the faculty, giving faculty support to really deliver a consistent experience, but also to deliver what I call their special sauce. So whatever they're really good at, we want that to shine. So Brett's gonna talk a little bit more later on about the instructional designer faculty experience, because that's something we're experts at in our company. But I would say that we've done a lot of faculty research. We're about to, we will be sending you it, but we're about to publish our third but second annual faculty survey. And we found last year that 66% of faculty said they don't have enough time to do all the things they need to do to be successful at teaching. That's a huge amount. Guess what? That number dropped. That was 55% last year. It's up to close to 70% this year. So faculty are feeling very, very stressed and struggle. So how do you create that consistency knowing that faculty are really struggling with time challenges? So I just wonder, maybe I'll start with Evan. Do you have any comments on this barriers to consistent high quality learning experiences?
You know, as I read the list in the Padlet, it occurs to me that there's the individual barriers versus the institutional or system challenges, right?
Yeah.
And so, you know, one that comes to mind immediately is the LMS. So at CUNY, you know, we have one LMS. We're currently replacing our learning management system, and we have one that we're asking everyone to use. We're not mandating it, but we're asking everyone to use. And that, again, comes back to the student's experience, because we have students who are taking courses across the system. At other institutions, it might not be the case, right? There might be policies that are in place, or resource constraints, or just a lack of visibility about the resources and tools and policies that are needed to facilitate the best experience in developing online courses and online programs. And so I think, Tom, you may agree, as institutional leaders, it's our job to identify and make movement in helping to inform and shape those policies, and helping to bring about the right resources, and helping to pave the way for the smoothest possible experience. I think one of the most significant barriers that we've experienced lately is we're still reeling from a post-pandemic world.
Yep.
Where that became the barometer for so many in terms of what it means to teach online, when in fact that was really emergency teaching in a remote experience. And so, you know, we had worked with a faculty member who published an article about teaching online during the pandemic, and that was his experience in teaching online. And we have to help reshape that perspective in some regards, which means we have to create this broader awareness about the differences of teaching that way, and the similarities and differences of teaching online, because there's still an educational opportunity here. And I think once we sort of break down that misunderstanding and shape a common understanding, we have a real opportunity for possibilities. But fundamentally, and I saw someone post about, you know, individual faculty resistance, there are so much of this is about personal relationships and building trust and credibility. So that's really why I say it's individual up to institutional, and we have to look at those separately and determine where we try to, you know, make progress in smoothing the path to doing the work that we do.
So Tom, any other additional comments or?
I have so many thoughts, Gary.
Always.
Yeah,
Well.
looking at these Padlet responses, so much of this resonates. But maybe I'll just sort of say this, that I think one of the biggest barriers to consistent high quality is actually success, because as we have scaled, we have a pretty large online program. I have found that it's really easy to kind of outrun your quality supply lines, because it's so simple to just, everybody gets an LMS shell for their course. You can do that with like a press of a button, and go and teach online. But that's not, you may have courses and you may have sections, but that doesn't mean any of them are going to be any good. The quality is baked into all of that stuff that leads up to that, all of the faculty development, the instructional designers, the media producers, like all of the people, the help desk support, everybody who surrounds that in sort of this quality ecosystem, that culminates in the pressing of the button that creates all of those LMS sections. So I think you can't just look at the technology side of things when you're talking about quality. It's those supply lines that you have to make sure are fed and nurtured and resourced. And that can be a challenge, right? I mean, I saw an awful lot of sort of resource comments in there. And one thing that I've tried to do to at least get resources is align our organization, the online piece of the university, with the institutional mission. Like, what are we doing to solve the president's problems? What are we doing to accomplish the board's goals? And tie it to that so that we become a solution, if possible, as opposed to an expense that or some sort of a bolt-on, make it core to actually accomplishing the institution's mission.
Yeah, and as a third-party support team, first off, we call that the circle of care around faculty, and that's what we try very hard to do, is create this whole circle of care to support faculty, so that our whole goal is to save them time while they do the things they need to do, and also to support them with learning science and all that good stuff. Brett, you just I want to make a comment. Amy McClellan, those comments are terrific. I think you are in an enviable position of creating your own program from scratch. But I like this whole idea about educating faculty, as Judy was mentioning, but also, making it clear to faculty that it's going to be a benefit them to work hand in hand with an instructional designer and an instructional design team, or learning team. One thing I love that you're doing, Evan, over at CUNY, is that you have faculty actually have to sign a memo of understanding at the beginning of the process, that this is their journey and this is what they're signing up for. And I think it's really helpful. Brett, are there other techniques that we've used that really can help build that relationship between the faculty and the learning design team?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, pardon me. Yeah, through our platform, our Curie platform, we've developed what are called optimizers, which are tools, templates, and wizards designed to help faculty efficiently and effectively build resources for their teaching. And those tools, templates, and wizards have a framework where the faculty can put in their context and the goals of what they're trying to create. And then we've got the learning science baked into that. And now with generative AI, we've got that as an option for faculty to turn on, where we've got the prompting in the background as well. So really quickly, they can give certain information about their course or the learning outcome, the type of experience they're wanting students to have, and then get those resources developed pretty rapidly. And we've been doing a lot of analysis, and as you saw in that column on the Padlet, time came up almost every single post. Time was in there, or was a related factor, workload, bandwidth. So we've been really leveraging this platform, and we're about to announce a little bit more about that and giving people access. But also in the instructor learning designer relationship, that platform has been a space where they can work most efficiently, where the designer can be there in step with them. And it's also allowed us to take off a lot of the administrative meetings where they might be working with 15 weeks with weekly meetings and trying to hit these weekly targets, where that can be done much more rapidly through this platform and through leveraging AI. So instead of months or 15 weeks, it can be maybe 5 meetings and a handful of weeks where effective courses can be created. And we've got all of this mapped to Quality Matters, to OSCAR, and to other standards, career readiness. So it's a way of being able to do that quickly, but also with that consistency and quality and efficiency.
Yeah, and we're going to be offering, as Brett said, we're about to launch, and you guys will be the first, participants here will be the first to receive it, but we're about to launch a freemium of our platform so people can try, they can use some optimizers and see if they can save time. As we say around our place, it's time to save time because you have to do that. Okay, I'm going to move on to something, not the real, but the one of the reasons I was so excited to have both Evan and Tom here today is, that you're doing really great stuff around this. And you talked a little bit about it when you talked about your challenges. You talked about some of the things you've done to overcome them. But Tom, from the perspective of a mature organization in terms of digital transformation, what have you done to overcome the challenges and to ensure consistency and quality?
For us, we kind of try to always look at everything through this lens of scale. So we've tried to build everything for scale instead of doing kind of a bespoke one-off, bolted on kind of process. That's just not going to scale. So for us, it's kind of all grounded on the faculty training experience, faculty development. We require faculty development in order to teach online or blended, but we pay faculty for their time for the successful completion of that training program. We recognize that this is an investment in them as a UCF faculty member. And then that successful completion unlocks all the resources of our Center for Distributed Learning, whether it's video production or graphics or multimedia, and that is at no cost to them or their departments. So what we try to do is eliminate all the friction that would pop up in using our services or ensuring that we have this circle of care, what I call the quality ecosystem, that supports them and their students kind of going forward. I think it's really important that that faculty feel supported. And, we've had our cases where faculty show up for training because we require it, and they got their arms crossed and like, I'm here because my chair made me come, or whatever it is. And then by the end of that program, it's like a 10-week program. They are all bought in and saying, I get it. I now have a really great relationship with my instructional designer. I'm going to be teaching online, and they're proud to show off the courses that they've built. So I think it's a journey. And I think for us, kind of building in a formative process as opposed to a summative process. Like, we don't do necessarily a required quality review of every course. We have hundreds of online sections every semester. We just don't have the manpower to do something like that. So we try to bake it into the formative development process. And then we do, we have various ways to kind of check along the way that what's being delivered is actually what we think it should be.
It's good. So Evan, you're at a system level, and have recently launched a very large initiative. So talk to us about what's working at CUNY.
Yeah, we are what I would refer to as a startup. CUNY Online is a new organization that was started in another part of the university, but came into our central office. And our goal, our mandate, is to build fully asynchronous online programs across the system. We're not an academic unit, so we enable the colleges to develop these programs, and we want to provide knowledge transfer so that they can take what they've learned and grow their portfolio if they choose at their campus. And I think one of our biggest challenges, has just been getting people to understand what we do, right? And it really has been this process where it's, CUNY is a fairly hierarchical place. So our leadership, our executive vice chancellor, went around and did listening tours of all of the colleges. And as part of the listening tours, talked about CUNY Online, who we are and what we do, answered questions, addressed concerns. Our associate vice provost who oversees a department in an Office of Academic Affairs, works with the provost at the colleges to help identify programs and discuss what we do, and particularly identify programs that we believe have market value based on a gap analysis that we did through UPSIA. Also, single programs that exist at colleges, programs that colleges would work together to build online. And then my team and myself work within the colleges across various leadership groups, deans, provosts, program chairs, to come in at a more detailed level and explain what we do, who we are, and how our practice and our processes work. And so that's us working in a tiered approach to bring the same message to different, I'll say, leaders and faculty throughout the university system. And then we invite them to submit an RFP to work with us. And that RFP provides us with the information we need to get started, but it also comes with a seed funding, which, similar to what Tom described, enables access to resources so that we can then step forward and help develop that program with them, which again, they own from the start because we're not an academic unit. And beyond that, we provide faculty development. So, we have created our own version of an online teaching course that we make available to all the colleges that they can repurpose and use and make their own. If they want to turn it into a certificate course, they can. If they just want to deliver it, but we require that they take a development course as part of an MOU, which we have the program signed, as you referenced earlier. And then we're designing orientation for students who are learning online to help them understand what that experience is like and how to access various resources. And and lastly, I would say part of the strategy is to hire really smart people who know a lot about this space, and then empower them to go out and be advocates and champions of their work, and demonstrate that as through the successes that we have, and we share those successes. So the moment we can go out and show something we've built or demonstrate how we've done something, have people speaking on our behalf, it sort of builds goodwill. But in every conversation, we want advocates and champions of our cause. So we ask for people to do that with us.
That's great. I think communication is key to all of this, right? Like, to overcoming barriers and challenges is really enabling people to see that you're there to help them and to help the institution. And as Tom said, aligning it to the mission and culture and goals of the institution. And I would also say, one thing we learned, we work really hard at, is meeting faculty where they are. Like, where are they? And also program directors and program chairs, so like meeting them where they are and making sure that you support them. Like, your help begins where they leave off and where they need help, as opposed to just going in and saying, hey, this is our way, this is how we do it, you need to do it our way. I would just like to take a moment to go back to Padlet and allow the folks in our virtual room to brag a little bit about what your achievements are at your institution in driving quality and consistency. So I'd love to hear from you. Please don't be shy. Brag away.
And for anybody just joining, we're focusing on column 2 there.
The greatest achievements in providing digital learning experiences that are consistent and high quality. Okay. While people are writing, I'm going to make a comment to Evan's comment, which is online learning is part of CUNY's strategic vision. It was interesting a few moments ago, Bhushan, who was an instructional designer, said that, getting the buy-in of the dean's team is a really important part of what you do. So it's like definitely really important that people know that this is important to the university. And also, it's what students want. I'm kind of surprised there's a gap at many institutions between students who are signing up left and right for the online courses, but but the faculty still don't want to necessarily teach online, and there's a little bit of a gap there at some institutions.
Well, I mean, to the point about balancing standardization and academic freedom, our strategy is we don't own anything that we do, and we tell people that we're not an academic unit. We just created a video describing who we are that we'll put on our website, and it was a very, very important point to articulate, because the misnomer is that, you know, we're developing programs and then we're offering them and delivering them, when in fact that's everything we do belongs to the college from the beginning of the relationship. And then the other piece of this is where we have strategic alignment, where the university has the strategic goal, the college has leadership have the strategic goal, and that filters down. It doesn't mean we don't end up with working with faculty who aren't engaged and don't want to do the work, but it gives us the best opportunity that when we meet resistance, we can lean on institutional campus leaders to help us move past that resistance, where they have a stronger relationship than we might in some cases. And so I think that alignment is essential for succeeding at scale.
Absolutely. That's good. Yeah, Brett, maybe you just could talk just a moment about how we can help bring scale. We don't want to sell our platform, but we've just developed all sorts of tools and ideas and opportunities. And I mean, one thing we really try to do very hard is really promote the mission and vision. I can't say that enough. It's like really important that you allow people to know that you're there supporting what they're trying to accomplish all the time. And Brett, do you have any other comments on that?
Yeah, I mean, sorry again. One of the things that was resonating with me is that notion of investing in faculty success and how important that is. And the term that I use internally, I don't like to say it to faculty, is I'm really thinking about faculty redesign, not just course redesign, because you really want to enable that faculty member to be the best that they can be in the classroom or online, whatever it is for their students. If you were to say that to them, they might think, well, you're tinkering with me, you're trying to change me, I'm just fine the way I am. But if you can get them through that process and really empower them and get them to see things differently and redesign them, then they're going to be able to take that course, which sometimes courses are developed in as a box, where they can really take that course and turn it into this powerful learning experience and being able to do that much more effectively. So we're trying to really, meet instructors where they are, give them just-in-time support, and move them along the process in a way that's best for them at their stage and at their pace, where a lot of great professional development offering that's out there can be kind of at one stage, one step, one pace that doesn't always meet the needs of faculty. So that's been our approach, is to try and be able to do it through the platform to meet them where they are just in time, but also that can be scaled across a program, across an institution, and serve an initiative, whatever it may be.
That's good. I like Amy's something they did at their school of reviewing the lowest rated faculty in each term. Got to be a little careful about that, and came up with a plan together, a team of respective faculty member, dean, and instructional designer to review their course and assist them. But I think it's really important that you always, Brett, I think we can take off the Padlet. Okay. People aren't so into bragging today as they are about challenges. But there's a lot of opportunity for all of us for improvement and upside in supporting faculty and in supporting your internal teams to create consistency. Anyway, I'd like to take this to the future, and we've been many of you have been to some of our AI webinars. We've had a lot of them. We have hundreds of people attend most of them. I'd like to talk a little bit about what does the future look like of really quality and consistency at scale. And Tom, I'm going to start with you, and particularly in the world of AI. So how do you envision the future of how this might work?
Yeah, actually, before I answer that question, just one response to something Brett said about redesigning the faculty. Of course, a term I would also never use outside of this forum. But what we find is that faculty who go through faculty development to teach online, it fundamentally changes how they teach in the face-to-face classroom as well. That gets reported to us over and over and over again, and so it just sort of organically happens. And I think that's sort of what you're saying, and maybe in a different way. So Carrie, the future, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What do I know about the future? When I was asked this question periodically before COVID or before AI, my answer was typically a growing trend towards personalization. I've seen that grow over time, where we've got adaptive learning platforms, and then we've got competency-based ed, and we've got all these different things that are happening that are helping to meet the students where they are, help to give them maybe a more customized pathway through their education. And I stand by that. And I think if anything, AI is going to accelerate that over time. It's going to give them the ability to better personalize more their educational experience, whether that's with customized teaching assistant support provided by AI at 2 in the morning that can answer their question, or if it's getting questions that they need from an office that's closed on campus, or just helping them choose what course might be next, or the right major, or whatever it is. I think AI is going to help to better personalize their experience for them, so that they can get the most out of what they want in their educational journey.
That's a great, and I also think that it's going to help to personalize the experience for faculty. Because if you get, if you use, we're already experimenting, and we're using AI for kind of the standard. If you can use that to create the structure, you ingest some of the course materials, and then like the syllabus, et cetera, and then you can use the AI to work on some of the stuff that faculty don't really want to spend their time on. Then that allows you to personalize your support to the faculty to help them do things that they do well, even better, and have more fun with it than having the instructional design team really support them on, okay, now we need to rewrite these learning outcomes, and we need to, all the kind of more mundane structural aspects of building the course. Evan, what do you think?
I think that we've talked a lot about being time starved, right? Especially, faculty who are challenged at participating in what can be a very extended process. And I think the most interesting opportunity for AI is to actually save time for faculty and for ourselves in doing the more routine and mundane things that we do now, which are so manual, so that they have the space to really provide a substantive experience to students, right? And the most recent example I came across was a faculty member who shared that by using AI, they actually created more time to give students better feedback on assignments because they weren't using that time for some other thing that they had been doing. And, there's so much opportunity to use AI in that regard by shrinking the things that we do that just we can jumpstart and make faster, so we can create space to do the things that require deep thinking and truly benefit the students and really improve their outcomes through that work. And so from my point of view, that's where AI is beneficial, is giving us some time back for real focus. Because I think from a technological and systems perspective, we're going to see AI in everything we do, and we're not going to know where it is and where it isn't at a certain point in time. And that's already starting to happen. If you're using a lot of variety of tools, AI is now showing up as a utility that you can use, which is secondary to that platform. But I think it's really just about creating more time to do deep work. And to me, that's the future in the short term.
Can I make a comment on that, Carrie? I totally
Please
agree
jump in.
with everything that Evan just said. And for example, there's a couple of things that we're exploring. One is faculty typically hate writing question sets. right? And so it's tedious, but it's necessary. And sometimes you need to have large question sets. AI is a really great help in doing that. That's a
Yeah.
very low level practical kind of example. But another one that we're talking about, I'll admit we haven't quite got there yet, but the idea of coming up with some sort of a AI assisted instructional design playbook. So instructional designer could meet with a faculty member and have their initial consultation, but then send them off with a series of prompts that might help them answer a bunch of questions, build some material that might take the place of the next 2 or 3 consultations that would have happened. So by the next time you meet, you are so much further ahead. And then it allows the instructional designers to be able to support that many more faculty. The faculty are able to start their course development that much more quickly. And I'm not saying either person gets removed from the equation or the process, but what it does is helps to maybe make it more efficient. And to Evan's point, the most valuable resource anybody has is time, and maybe AI can help us maximize that.
Okay, it's so funny you're using that word playbook, because I'm going to turn it to Brett for a moment, but we are building just that. We're building, the design process happens with a playbook. And then from that playbook, the faculty member, based on what they need, because it's very personalized and contextualized, gets a playlist of optimizers that they can quickly fill out. They can quickly work through to build the course. So that's exactly the concept we're using in the playbook and the playlist. Evan, you're going to say something.
And this, to just call back to a previous part of this discussion where we talked about obstacles and challenges, the use of AI needs to align with institutional strategy and policy, right? There is a great benefit to these tools. Those of us who use Microsoft, those of us who are using OpenAI's ChatGPT, but to do this at scale, the institution needs to be providing the political and technological capacities and facilities to do it. So the institution needs the tools, they need the policies to govern those tools, and they need the trust. And I think that's something we're seeing at CUNY as we explore this early on in different conversations, talking about how we're using AI to benefit our work. We are also talking about how the institution can very quickly move towards leveraging it at scale, so that it's an institutional practice. And I wanted to call back previously because it's a very concrete example of where that matters.
It's awesome. So Brett, I'm gonna turn this to you for a minute, because you have spent so much time. But wait, before I turn this to Brett for a moment, I'd like to end this by giving you the opportunity to ask Tom and Evan specific questions that you have for them, or if you have any thoughts or you want to just throw some general questions out, please throw them in chat. But Brett, why don't you talk? I mean, what's your vision? And I know you've been taking your vision and building it into what we're doing. So, but it's exciting.
Yeah. Every time, excuse me. Yeah, so since November of last year, I've jumped on the wild ride. Thought, okay, here I go. Late in my career, I've got to jump on this thing and stay with it. And spent 6 months just really getting to know what AI could do in its current iteration, generative AI, I should say, and working with all these prompts and different scenarios, and what we've been doing to put that into individual optimizers, but now where we have this course design optimizer and that playbook that Carrie talked about, where when you get the faculty member and they've shared their syllabus, when you take that in, when you have the learning outcomes analyzed, the text that they're using, when you have information about their students, when the instructor states their preferences according to whether it's teacher directed, what level it might be, student directed, all of those different things can really jumpstart the design process very rapidly, to where then the designer and the faculty member can meet much more quickly further down the road and start building and creating, and then doing these check-ins once they've set up a series of these modules that become generated early on, usually modules 0 through 2, let's say, those first few as a check-in to make sure that everything's working as intended for the instructor. Then there can be rapid iteration moving from there according to the content types, the modular level outcomes. And that's one key thing is, Quality Matters came up at the very beginning, is The biggest stumbling block I've seen is those modular level outcomes that are just so granular and difficult and time consuming for instructors to be able to grasp and implement. This does it really well to that level.
It's awesome. Bhushan asked, what do people think of the use of AI to find quality OER? You know, it's interesting. You know, we do a lot of OER curation. We're actually just in conversations with an institution who wants us to help them completely re-engineer all their courses to be OER based. And they're not the traditional courses that have, by the way, we have a wonderful partnership with OpenStax, and are building optimizers and tools around OpenStax so that it makes it easy for faculty to share activities, experiences, banks of questions, Tom, that you can create using AI around that OER. But a lot of courses don't have, it's not easy. It's more of a curation process. So I don't know if anyone here has anything to say about, you know, using AI to increase the usage of OER at your campus. Is this something you're talking about, thinking about?
We haven't done that specifically, although we are definitely supportive of the use of OER. And so anything that would help, you know, with adoption and expansion of OER resources and materials, I think is a good thing. And you know, kind of as you're implying, there's so much out there. You know, there are some of the brand names like OpenStax that we know about, but there's so much out there that if AI can kind of help reveal and discover and curate some of these things, you know, I think that's a great use case for AI.
Yeah, I'll add, check out an app called Perplexity, which is open. It's a ChatGPT competitor, so to speak, and it's sort of like a search engine killer. And that's not my terminology. I'm stealing it from somebody on LinkedIn. But what it does is it gives you this results of what it found and where it found it. So why I mention that is because you ask, what do you think of using AI to find quality OER resources? I would want to know the sources, and ChatGPT and other tools don't necessarily do that so transparently. So I recommend taking a look at Perplexity and see if that helps you to synthesize some of what it finds out there for you.
Yeah, that's great, because the this whole concept of hallucinations, you know, where they, even when you ask what the sources are, then they give you these sources, then you go to look them up and they're like, wait, this person wrote an article, had nothing to do with this, right? You know? So, okay, I'm going to move to our final segment, which is, I always like to end a conversation like this by asking our experts their parting words of advice for institutions that are looking to drive and scale consistency and quality. So, Evan, I'll start with you.
I would say that my lesson learned is, and I think what's worked really well for us, is we built the structure for ourselves first, right? We established our own guidelines. We established our own in the way what information we would want from programs. You know, we established the goals and strategic vision, right? We went out and did an inventory to assess what programs existed and where the opportunity was. So in saying that, it's a very focused initiative, and, you know, again, very narrow, because we're building online asynchronous programs. So my advice is, if you're looking to do this at scale, in looking for the opportunity to scale, start building that structure, framework, roadmap, whatever terminology works for you, before you go out there and begin building at scale. And, you know, identify where you need partnership, where you need resources, where you need additional fiscal contributions, where you need additional team members and expertise, and sort of build that, and then focus really your goal, and then start doing it. And you'll still learn a lot about how you need to improve to scale. But I think if you have that baseline, it's really good. And then lastly, I would say one of the things we tend to do in higher education is we look to our partners and we ask them, how did you do this? And they, you know, we learn a great deal. And And I think that's important, but I also would go outside of higher education, and I would look at private or other entities who have done this at scale and see what you can glean from them. Tom spoke earlier about this idea of so I'll use the term supply chain, everything from creating the course shell through to delivering the online program or course. And I think, if you look at higher education and how we do it, and if you look at the private industry and how they do this, where the incentives are different, you may glean different lessons. And so I think it's important always to have that comparative point of view when you're going out there. So my advice is build the structure, identify the needs you have and things you'll have to put in place to scale, and then look both inside higher education and outside higher education to see what you're not aware of that you need to consider before going down that road of starting to really build.
Excellent. Tom, we're going to end with you.
Yeah, I'll make it quick. I will borrow some philosophy that I got from my first boss at UCF, which is Joe Hartman. And he always said that for online learning, it should be for the right reasons. Make sure it's mission aligned, or that you're doing it to serve students. And it's not because you see dollar signs and you want to generate revenue. It's the absolute worst reason to try and start an online learning program. And there have been lots of examples of where that has failed, where initiatives have gotten out in front of the faculty or students. So if you do it for the right reasons and you do it the right way, meaning with quality, with students in mind, the money should take care of itself. So I would say, quality should be at the center of the bullseye for any program that you're building.
Excellent. So I think it's time for us to wrap it up. Brett, do you have any last comments and before we wrap?
No, the last thing I guess is I heard Evan mention, thinking outside of higher ed. And so as we know, demand for online is increasing. And so as we're looking at that as an opportunity to do more things online and do it effectively, how do we think of our mission that Tom mentioned and make sure that it's aligning with the newer realities out there and continue to do that? So finding that opportunity to look outside increasingly.
Good. Well, I want to thank Tom. I want to thank Evan for joining us today. This has been a great conversation. Well, Malika said, excellent conversation. I couldn't agree more. And thank all of you for participating and joining. And as usual, we'll share the chat out so you can see what people had to say, because there were some really good ideas that surfaced. And we'll share the Padlets. And feel free to share the recording with your staff. So thank you all. Have a good day.